Hey everyone, it's Kenji. We're gonna make some Turkish eggs. So this dish is called Çilbir. So if you are part of the cooking club level of my Patreon, last week you would have gotten a recipe for these roasted carrots and chickpeas with a Aleppo chili butter, or an Urfa Biber chili butter, that I think is really delicious. But that dish was based on this dish, which is it's called Çilbir in Turkish. Forgive my pronunciation, but essentially it's yogurt, thick yogurt with Aleppo chili butter and poached eggs. It's really, really simple, but I think delicious. At my friend's bakery, Backhaus in Burlingame and San Mateo, we recently put this on the menu there. I did sort of like a little revamp of the breakfast menu last summer, and one of the dishes that we ended up putting on there is a variation of this dish. It's a little bit more complicated than the sort of real simple version that I'm going to make today. That version had a bunch of herbs and some other spices and stuff in there. But anyway, I got some unsalted butter here, some Aleppo chili flakes, and I'm just going to let that butter melt right here. And as that butter melts, I'm going to also season my yogurt. I'm using Greek yogurt. You can use any kind of sort of thick strained yogurty product. You know, this is really good with something like labneh, but you want to season it with some salt. I'm going to add a little olive oil in there also. You don't need to, but I kind of like the way it tastes. And we're just going to mix that up. I'll give it a little taste for seasoning. That's good. All right, so we'll set that aside for now. I'm adding some chives to this dish. You could do it with parsley, you could do it with dill. You know, very commonly there would be no herbs whatsoever, but I kind of like the way the green looks, and I love chives on eggs. So we'll do some really thinly sliced chives here. I guess moderately thinly sliced. All right, and once our butter is melted and foaming like this, that foam is sort of the water content of the butter that's evaporating out of there. You know, that's what causes butter to bubble when it cooks. So we know that the butter is sort of starting to get above the boiling temperature of water by this point. We don't want to let it really get to the point where it's going to start to brown, because we really want sort of the delicate flavor of the chili to come through without so much of those sort of brown butter solids. All right, so 4 tablespoons of butter. I probably put about a total of a teaspoon and a half or so of this Aleppo chili. If you don't have Aleppo chili, you can use other types of chili. You know, you could do like roughly ground ancho chili would be great in here. Urfa Biber is another type of Turkish chili that has a kind of fruity, smoky flavor to it. That would be great in here. So really, you know, any sort of flavorful hot ground chili that you got will work. This is unsalted butter, so I'm going to season with a little bit of salt. And I'll just give that a taste also. Yeah, Aleppo chili has like a moderate amount of heat, but this really sort of nice, bright fruitiness to it. And as that sits, it's going to start to infuse a little bit more. And that chili butter should turn really nice and bright red. All right, so the last ingredient here, poached eggs. So I've got some water on here, just at a bare simmer. We're gonna put some salt in it just so that the eggs get seasoned. No vinegar, nothing else. So my trick for poaching perfect eggs is that you want to start with a strainer like this. I'm going to carefully break the egg into it. Okay. And so, you know, eggs Inside them, there is a obviously the membrane that holds the yolk together. Then there's a membrane that holds the white together, and then outside of that, there's all this kind of loose, liquidy white. You can save this white, you know, freeze it, collect it, and make like an egg white omelet or make a meringue or something out of it. But that's the stuff that makes your poached eggs kind of deformed and start to get sort of wispy. All right, so our water is at like a sub-simmer. We want it to have just been simmering, and we turn down the heat just until it barely stops simmering. You know, so we see some bubbles down there, but that's about it. And then we're gonna carefully tip our eggs in. I'll get a little slotted spoon here. I'm just gonna give them a swirl so they don't stick to the bottom of the pan, and so that they have a nice sort of suspended shape to them instead of a flat bottom. That said, you know, this dish, I love it with poached eggs, but if you're the kind of person who likes, say, fried eggs, you know, you could do this just as easily with fried eggs, and it would still taste great. All right, so while those eggs finish up, we'll get our plating going. We'll take some of that yogurt, dollop it right into the middle of the plate here, and then use the back of our spoon to kind of create a little nesting ground for those eggs to land in when they're done. The eggs, we want them to stay nice and loose, loosey-goosey. Maybe a little bit more than this, but we're getting there. So you can see, yeah, when you strain off those extra whites, you have very little of those sort of ghostly wisps that fly around and make the eggs difficult to cook neatly. What often happens to me is that if I'm poaching a bunch of eggs, especially, the water turns so cloudy that I can't see where my eggs are, and then when I'm trying to fish them out, I accidentally end up breaking them. Poached eggs, you also want to try and use the freshest eggs you can, because the fresher the egg, the tighter the membrane on the outside is going to be, and the better they're going to keep their shape. So I got a napkin here. I'm just going to pick up my egg and give it a little bit of a blot so that it's not sort of soaking wet into the yogurt. I'll put down one. Let's grab our second one here. Beautifully jiggly like that, you see? Get our second one on here. And then we're just going to spoon the chili butter over and around them. Finish off with a couple chives. I'm also going to add just a little bit of flaky sea salt to the top of those eggs. And that's it. That's our dish. Very, very simple. Now, the best way to eat this is taking some bread and just going ahead and dipping. I'm gonna pop open this yolk and mix it all together. Look at that. Mmm. It's tangy and rich, a little spicy. I think we use a little more chives. Maybe even a little more chili butter. This chili butter, by the way, when you store it, it's going to set up in the fridge the same way that butter would. But you can just, you know, pop it on the stovetop or throw it in the microwave for a minute or so. Well, microwave for 10 seconds on the stovetop for like a minute, and it'll come right back to its former glory. Look at that. Yum. All right. Turkish eggs, so poached eggs with yogurt and chili butter. That yogurt and chili butter combo is one of my favorite things. I use it for all kinds of dishes, ranging from, you know, salads to meatballs. I did this carrot thing, which you can find the recipe for if you join my cookbook club. You can find the full recipe for this up on my Patreon. I will leave a link. Not that it really needs a recipe, it's so simple. But all right, guys, gals, non-binary pals, see you later.